So, what we've got coming up for you now, unscripted, the Egg Timer chat. Keep watching. City versus small town. As a minority, which was easier to grow up in? With myself, Shanice, and Safi. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go. Timer?
So
I grew up from when I was born until I was just basically 10 in London, dead in the city. And then I moved and spent the last half of my life in a small town in Taunton. So for me, it's weird because I saw more diversity in London, but I experienced less racism in Taunton, which, I'm sorry, at the time when we were growing up, it was predominant because outside of you, everyone I knew, that I was, very good friends with, were white, essentially. So it was like a weird balance. So I may have been around more diverse people in London, but I experienced more racism, and it was like the opposite in a small town. So I got kind of like both strings on that. But I think personally, like when it comes to the small towns, it's like they don't have as much diversity, but at the same time it's subtle.
It's an ignorance thing, like people aren't the racism's there, but because it's such a small town, it's like for you it's almost like silent,
I felt like in the small town it was more I'll say a racial slur. I don't actually mean offence to it. I just don't know what it means. I also don't want to know what it means. Whereas in London, I felt like you're saying that because I want to hurt you, and what you're going to do about it. I know what it means. Like that was just my personal experience, really.
Yeah, and for you, because obviously you grew up in the same town as Joelle. Like, how was your experience kind of like growing up in that kind of small town area? And obviously, like now you're in London. Like, how's that kind of transition happened and changed for you?
That's fair. It is quite different. Like, it's a quite different move. But I think you also have to kind of take into account the fact that we were quite young when we were growing up and we were going through school, so that's a different environment to kind of the working or like university studying life, because the age ranges are so different. So some of the things that might get said or not said when you're kind of in school, that maybe has a different weight or impact, like you say, when it's just young children, copying things that they've heard on TV or heard their parents say, as to, again, when it's used in a kind of more malicious context as you get older, or if it's just something that's so subtle, but you only, because I find things like looking back as an adult, I go, oh yeah, I feel like, I did feel a little bit odd one out-ish. So when you're in that situation, you don't think, oh, this is because I don't look like everyone else. You're just kind of a kid, like, there's something off here. But it's only when you kind of have that, in hindsight, as an adult, to look back and go, oh yeah, like, looking back at all the school photos, and you're like, oh, there's me.
You can spot yourself straight away. Or like my town, because obviously, like, I grew up in a city, but it was a small city, and obviously there was racism there, but like I think like with you and you guys, even it was like silent as well. But obviously, just talking about being the odd one out, I full-heartedly relate to that, because I had like a lot of white friends, and I was always like that token black friend, like all the time. But even with sports, like I was always like the black girl in the football team, and like sometimes my football mates would say things that I was a bit like, but I never really said anything. Because you kind of want to fit in, so you don't really say things. But like, I think with what you're saying about age, as you get older, you're starting to realise more things, and you kind of put your foot down after a while. Like, that's not cool anymore. Kind of thing.
I think with this one, it was weird. Like, I didn't not like growing up, because there were a lot of times where I felt the old one out, especially when we were in certain lessons like English or history, and we'd be watching all these kind of videos, and I didn't always used to get upset purely for the fact that I know half of these videos were set like maybe hundreds of years ago, so I wasn't born, so I know we're aware that that's what things were like at that time, but it's hopefully not like that now, or as extreme, let's say. But I didn't always get so upset, but there were times where it was just, we were watching Of Mice and Men, and they kept using the N-word, and after a while I was just like, okay, I was fed up, so I just rolled my eyes, and the girl next to me was just getting like, why are you getting so annoyed? Like, it's an old film and everything, it's just a film. And it was like, no offense, but you would say that, you're white. And I think I do think that it's hard for someone to understand something when you're not you haven't had the same experiences, because it's like growing up, like, I'm not saying that there's, you know, people aren't racist against white people, but I do think that some people don't want to understand. If you can't relate to it, then they're like, well, what's your problem then?
Yeah.
And that's what was more frequent in Taunton, where it's like they weren't racist towards me or make racial slurs, but when I got upset or when I tried to explain a situation, they wouldn't necessarily understand because they can't relate, so they switch off and like, well, I don't understand.
It's funny that you say, oh, they weren't racist towards me, because obviously, but like I said, obviously silent racism is a thing, so you don't know what happens behind closed doors.
Yeah, true,
like, you don't know what people are saying behind your back, you know, like...
It was just never to my face, so I just...
Yeah, so it feels like almost like potentially it wasn't there, which is...
You're almost kind of in a protective
you've got no
bubble.
Sort of proof that it did or it didn't, but there is that, like you're saying, that kind of attitude. And I think as well, when you're like a minority, you know, in that school class, especially because you think, if I'm a minority in this town, let alone in this class, you know, of people, so that could be really difficult, you know, being sat there and you almost are like a spokesperson for your entire race, you know, in that community, and that can be really difficult because you've kind of got no one to kind of either back you up to be like, no, actually, I get that. I feel like that's uncomfortable. You know, I don't think you should say that, because you're kind of shot down by everyone else because there's no one else that's like, I get that. Yeah. And that can be really hard.
But it's weird when you obviously, like, as a person of colour, when you obviously don't feel like you fit in either being black or, because obviously you've got a lot of white friends or whatever, so you feel like, I don't fit in with the black people, but I don't fit in with my white friends.
Yes.
And it's funny because when I look at the black aspect of it all, like I love like my black friends and family and all that kind of stuff, but there's always that, when I was growing up, there's always that kind of judgment or jokes like, oh, you're gonna hang out with your white friends, or you're an Oreo, like, and like stuff like that, or you know, like, oh, you're gonna hang out with your white boyfriend, all that kind of weird, like, kind of stuff.
No,
like.
I completely relate to that, because I got that more when I moved back to London. A little bit when I went to uni, because obviously, you know, we were just outside of London, but it was still bigger than Taunton. But more so when I came back a couple of years ago in London, and I befriend, my group of friends were a mixture of people. And it was great, because I literally just felt like, oh my god, it's great to be around people that understand certain music things, so things that only certain types of people will, you know, like when I went to Taunton, not many people knew who JLo was. They either knew her name, but they didn't know anything about her. And when I came to London, and because I used to grow up thinking that they know who she is, but they don't really know of her. And then when I came to Taunton, I associate it with people of colour will only know who she is. And that was just like an example. That was my experience. I know that's not necessarily a global opinion and true,
that's just what happened,
but that's just my experience.
That's so funny to hear that, because I know like how much you love JLo. JLo's great and all, but like when I see JLo, I feel like her marketing and everything she kind of stands for, I don't understand how like white people don't know who she is, because I feel like it's marketed in a way that's like, I don't know, for some reason I'm like, she's very poppy, like especially her old school music. So I'm thinking, yeah, of course white people would like that. How do they not know who JLo is? Like, that's what I personally think.
Anyway, to kind of bring back to
sorry, no, I just had to put it there. I just had to put that there. Sorry, I just had to put that out there.
Back to small towns.
Sorry. That's just what JLo up, man.
That's a genuine example of.
There's certain aspects that maybe you feel like is only within your family community. That actually like, hey, I've got friends that get this. But I can, again, coming from my experience, because obviously I'm mixed race, I feel like I've got like one foot in both sides, and that can be difficult, because it's not only just like you say, the kind of. It's difficult as well, because I think class kind of comes into it as well, because it's kind of the area that you grew up in and what the school that you went to is like, so it can be difficult, you know, if you move into an area that's slightly different in the big city than to how you grew up in the town. So I think that kind of factors it into it as well, but it's also, you know, the kind of music that your classmates were listening to when you're young, that becomes your thing and your world. And again, for me, because of my parents are from different heritage, like I feel like my upbringing was maybe different to people, especially like kind of their parents are first generation, so they kind of bring that culture with them. Whereas I didn't really have that growing up, so it can be difficult then to kind of relate. You know, we've got the same heritage, but it's different, and I think that can be kind of tough, because you're kind of like, where do I belong?
Where do you belong?
Yeah. I think so many factors play a part in like what your experiences at the end of the day, because there's even like, we may all be not white people, but it's like everyone has different experiences. So for example, like I really can't remember what the phrase was, but you said something to me that you find offensive, and you explained to me why, but from your experience. So obviously I've never experienced that. I really can't remember what the sentence was. It's something in Rome. Someone said something to you, and I didn't see it happen, but you explained to me why you were upset because you associate that with racism.
Yeah, I really can't remember.
And I didn't, and that's what I mean. Like you can like I could go up to you and be like, oh. My neighbour said to me, can you move that bin please? And I could be like, but that was racist, he's only asking me because I'm black. And you still might not understand, like, but it's not, he's asking you to move his bin. And it's like, yeah, but it's based down to experience. I think everyone is so, because where you grew up in, I think has a big influence on your experience at the end of the day. But like you said, age, class, what school you went to, it's so different.
What you find affects you, as well.
I just think also if you're a person of colour, no matter what, you're still just floating around. It doesn't matter where you've grown up. Like you're still trying to fit in because society kind of suppresses you in a sense.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what city you come from or where you kind of come from.
Whoa.
You know.
That was an interesting debate. You can cut now.
Okay, well, just.
Hey guys, so thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more fun videos coming your way.